When we think of royal servants and royal people, that sort of stuff, assisting the royals, you think of things instantly, don't you, of Mr. Hudson and of course Rose, the parlour maid, from the brilliant British series Upstairs, Downstairs. More modern day people, of course, will say the same thing about Downton Abbey, a wonderful series that depicted life, living below stairs as something as well quite nice. A lot of camaraderie, a lot of fun, and almost a home from home. These places became your instant family. You know, you tended to literally walk away from your own family because you were lucky enough to get a place in service. But life, particularly for the royal servants, wasn't exactly how people might have thought. You see, behind the scenes there was a lot more hierarchy going on, and it wasn't exactly considered a great job to become a servant for the royals back in the Victorian era. There was a lot better positions, you see, whether you were working as a lady's maid for maybe a titled American who'd come over to marry rich and was going to travel Europe or the world. You didn't want to be scrubbing pots and pans all day below stairs like Ruby in Upstairs, Downstairs. Today I wanted to share with you a story that I've uncovered about exactly what happened behind the scenes at those magnificent balls and dinners and stuff like that inside the royal household around about the time of Queen Victoria, and why in certain aspects she had no idea what her son Bertie, the Prince of Wales, was doing to procure such wonderful, engaging and enlightening a new batch of servants. As ever, let me explain. Morning, good to see you today, and as ever, thank you so much for your time. I hope you're keeping well. And as ever, I thought we'd share a little bit of history together, because it is always fascinating to look back and see how people did things differently back in the days. Many people know who watch this channel know in my time as a budding thespian, I managed to work for some of the biggest hotel groups in the land, including the Savoy, the Grosvenor House, the Dorchester. And really, I think I was attuned to that world simply because I watched things like the soap opera Crossroads over here in the United Kingdom, and of course the brilliant Upstairs, Downstairs. It was a different world you lived in at that particular point, and they instantly became very much close friends because you spent so much time together with them. I understood exactly how that particular servant sort of quarter thing really worked way back in the Victorian era. I remember saying to a guy at one particular hotel back in Yorkshire, "What do you do to have to become a head waiter?" He pointed to a man that was quite elderly in the corner, and he said he's been head waiter here for 37 years. And I thought, wow, you got to wait that long? And that's exactly the problem of being a servant in the Victorian time, because of course there was a lot of, shall we say, hierarchy, paraphernalia. Now, if you were lucky enough to work for the British royal family, it wasn't considered a great sort of role that it is today, because people really, well, lots and lots of people were looking for servants, and the royals have never been the best payers. You see, the best payers really were the nouveau riche, the people that were living in Belgravia, that had maybe made their money in other areas like cotton mills and other big sort of industries. The royals, of course, got their money through the government, as they still do today, mainly, and they didn't like to part with it. So it was interesting to see that the people that actually the royals engaged as servants, well, there was a bigger inside secret, and I wanted to share this with you. You see, as many people realise, today we have things like state banquets, and it's always written about as this wonderful event, and a leading dignitary comes along, and the king or the queen, whoever that might be at that point, of course, welcomes them. I mean, you see them all walking down, don't you, Buckingham Palace, all the way down the corridor in their fine regalia. Well, back in the Victoria and Edwardian era, the big thing really was, yes, the dinner, but then the spectacular ball afterwards. And the ball really was the thing that actually cinched the deal, simply because, what you had to do, it was the way of networking, influencing, as we call it today. And the bottom line really was you had to make sure you made the right connections, particularly if you were looking for a rich husband, or more importantly, you were trying to do business with someone there. Now, what the Prince of Wales came up with, this wonderful idea, was simply this. He had a lot of complaints that he took back to Queen Victoria, basically saying that the servants stood there looking sour and absolutely petrified. And they did, because they'd never dealt with people like this before. They were used to being below stairs. Suddenly they were being asked to pass around the champagne, the cigars, the canapes, and they did their job with great aplomb, but zero personality. Very deftly and very quietly, what the Prince of Wales did was find budding out-of-work music hall actresses and performers. You know, people that could get up in front of an audience. So suddenly the Master of Ceremonies was born. They would announce these people coming through, and apparently the Queen thought this was marvellous, having no idea that she came, or they came, should I say, from the music halls that she had such a problem with. Suddenly the waitresses, who were not really waitresses, but really just music hall performers who didn't have any work, well, they were far better looking and certainly more poised, and more importantly, knew how to smile and speak to people. This, of course, further down the line had a massive adverse effect because, as we then know, as these particular, shall we say, people infiltrated that world, sadly for a lot of titled ladies and gentlemen and their sons and daughters, suddenly they'd mixed with the wrong kind, as it were. And suddenly there was a problem maybe with a lady's maid or a parlour maid who was suddenly, of course, having to disappear for 9 months. You get the picture. But that truly is what happened. Now, according to sources, Queen Victoria possibly knew, but of course Bertie kept a lot of secrets from her. And the idea really was he just wanted to make the business shine a little bit more. He certainly did with these out-of-work actresses that doubled up as waitresses, standing there looking pretty, holding trays of sherry or champagne or Christmas cake. Either way, it was a secret that for many years remained something of a secret. And to this day, that's really why the thriving profession of waiters who are performers, resting actors, all that sort of stuff, end up working in such glittering events, purely because they know how to interact with people. And once again, Bertie, the Prince of Wales, knew all too well about that. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.